Your friendly reminder that getting divorced sucks, but being divorced, pretty great.
Welcome to The Wall. In today's video, we'll look at a heartbreaking case of a man who was a victim of paternity fraud. We will also discuss the alarming percentage of paternity fraud in the United States and how men are advocating for mandatory DNA testing. Make sure to smash that like button and join the channel by subscribing. Show some love to the movement. That's the only support we ask for, man. Share your experiences in the comments to guide other men. Without further ado, let's get started.
I don't know if you guys seen this video that's gone viral, but watch the video if you haven't, and then let's discuss this. Yeah, just watch
The results are as follows. In the case of Manser versus Sear, as it pertains to 20-year-old Dylan Sear, Mr. Manser, you are not
Oh, God.
his father.
Oh, man. 5 years in prison. Oh, my God. She should be convicted of some crime.
No, I should not. I didn't.
That
Mr.
is
Manser,
fraud.
Mr. Manser,
That is fraud.
I know you're upset. Do you want to find out who your father is?
Of course.
Miss Sear, do you know?
Yes, ma'am.
You know who his father is?
Yes, I talk to him still.
Listen,
Get away from my son.
he apologized.
And under another breath, he's calling me a liar.
You cannot stand there and really suggest that you cannot comprehend why this man would not have any type of ill feeling, frustration, or regret as it relates to anything involving you. 5 years in prison. And then I say, do you know who your son's father is? And you say, yes, I'm still in touch with him. That is a really huge pill to swallow.
I remember being asked this on a podcast whether I would have a problem if my husband asked me for a paternity test. And initially I was like, of course I would. That is offensive for my husband to ask me for a paternity test. What? No, who do you think you married? But when I see videos like this, I feel like, you know what? I'm not going to say I wouldn't still be like, you know, because it depends on the dynamics of the relationship. Is that your husband? Is that your boyfriend? Is that someone you're just linking? All of that plays a part, because if it's someone that I'm just linking and end up getting pregnant, yeah, he has a right. If he wanted to, I wouldn't be offended. I'd be more than happy to do it. If it's your husband now, you feel a bit different. However, in saying that, do I now believe that maybe it should be mandatory for every man to have a paternity test? Because of women like this, and there are many women like this, I do believe that maybe it should be mandatory, because as women, we would always know that that child is coming from us, right? We know definitely that's our child. But how does a man, how do you guarantee that that is that man's child? It's literally just our word.
Damn!
I completely agree. That woman should face the consequences. That man spent 5 years in jail for not being able to support a child she knew perfectly well wasn't his. And the judges, just as negligent as she was, didn't even ask for a DNA test before locking him up. They just throw you in the hole without questioning anything, leaving you to rot while the real culprit stays free. And on top of that, she has the nerve to ask him if he knew he wasn't the father, with an indignant look on her face, as if what she did wasn't already enough. She claims she talks to the real father as if that would fix everything. That's criminal, brother. It fills you with rage to see something like that, because it's obvious everything was pure selfishness. That woman didn't want him to leave, and she used the child as a weapon. DNA testing should be mandatory from the start. The fact that someone gets offended when you ask for something as basic as confirming paternity only shows a clear attempt at emotional manipulation. A man has the right to know if the child, into whom he's investing years of his life and resources, is truly his own flesh and blood. It's the most important thing for a man: his legacy, his lineage. The greatest show of trust and loyalty a woman can give her man is a DNA test. That would prove she has nothing to hide and truly loves him.
The husband is demanding a paternity test for his newborn child, or he won't sign the birth certificate. The wife and new mom gave some backstory on Reddit, sharing that she and her husband both worked hard on their college degrees and are now established in good careers. Her husband came into the relationship with a lot of debt, so she moved him into her house, which she owned, and helped him slowly pay things off. Eventually, the wife secured a better paying job, but it was a physically demanding job that required travel. And you can probably see where this is going. The woman became pregnant, and when she was 8 months pregnant, her husband demanded a paternity test out of nowhere. He said he trusted her, but because she traveled so much for work, he needed the assurance for his peace of mind. Apparently, his family and friends said he couldn't be sure about the pregnancy since his wife had spent so much time away. This request understandably upset his wife, so he dropped it. But 3 months after their son was born, he brought it up again, and this time he put his foot down, insisting he wouldn't put his name on their son's birth certificate without a paternity test. Too late, bud. That paperwork was filled out at the hospital. When he found out, it infuriated him. Now his family and friends are calling the new mom, pressuring her to let him do the paternity test. She says it's a slap in the face after all she's done for him. Research shows that without trust, relationships suffer, and this dad is definitely lacking trust. Once trust is lost in a relationship, it's very hard to recover, and this wife has assured her husband many times that their son belongs to him and that she's been faithful. But he's choosing to take the words of his friends and family over his wife, and if he can't trust his wife, the future of their relationship might not be secure. And she shouldn't have to submit herself to a paternity test when she's given her husband no reason to doubt her loyalty.
Exactly, because the only thing she loses is that integrity she claims to have, but in reality, it holds no value in this world. Meanwhile, he loses 18 years of his life raising another man's child, spending over $300,000 in the process. But, of course, what seems to matter here is that she doesn't get offended. She feels offended because she thinks that, since he helped her financially, now he owes her blind faith. But let's be clear. The fact that he helped her pay her debts doesn't mean he owes her his silence or emotional submission. Paternity for a man is a matter of life and death in terms of time, resources, and commitment. Demanding certainty is not disrespectful, it's pure intelligence. That excuse that he's traveled a lot for work is precisely the reason why he has every right to ask for a paternity test. If she spends long periods away, it's completely logical for him to want to ensure everything is in order. It's not a direct accusation. It's just that in a world where infidelity happens, a responsible man protects his future before fully committing. Avoiding a paternity test only raises more suspicions. If she truly has nothing to hide, accepting the test should be natural. Don't be fooled, brothers.
Apparently right now there's a huge debate on whether or not paternity tests should be mandatory. A lot of women are against it, to no surprise whatsoever. A lot of them are saying that they would divorce their husband immediately if he asked them for a paternity test. And even some men are saying that it would be labeling their wife as a whore to ask for a paternity test. So I'm gonna have to disagree with the women and the men on this that are against mandatory paternity tests, because as a woman, I'm never gonna know what it feels like to question if the child is mine or not, with the exception of baby swaps in the hospitals. But how often does that happen? And also, as a woman, why wouldn't I want my child to then be swapped to ensure that that is my child after all, and then give that man peace of mind? This isn't about trust. This is just about peace of mind, because you know what? With the statistics that have come out and the data that has come out with how many women cheat in marriages and how many women cheat in general, if I was a man, I would want a paternity test for sure. In France, it's caused such a debacle that they have made it illegal. Doesn't that in itself speak volumes? I really don't see the issue with this becoming a mandatory thing for everyone to get, because then no woman would feel signaled out. It wouldn't be a personal decision. It would be just something that everyone gets. So it would give your husband peace of mind. It would give you peace of mind, because you know that your baby was not swapped at the hospital. And you wouldn't be questioning that trust aspect because everyone's doing it. So I really don't see the issue if this was a government mandate. However, if you guys still have an issue with that, then you know what? Why don't men just get the baby swabbed? I 100% think that every single man should swab their baby. I don't care if you have to do it behind her back. Swab that baby because the risks are way too high these days. And if she's getting offended, that's a red flag, because personally I would not care. I would not get offended. I would want the peace of mind for myself that the baby wasn't swapped at the hospital, and if I can give my husband peace of mind at the same time, why would I not do that? I have nothing to hide. If someone doesn't have anything to hide, they wouldn't care. You can be empathetic towards the male gender due to this issue that's going on with so many women tricking men into being fathers for babies that aren't theirs.
1 in 3 DNA tests come back negative. Paternity fraud, where a man is led to believe he is the biological father of a child when he is not, happens more frequently than many people imagine. According to data from the American Association of Blood Banks, approximately 28% of paternity tests reveal that the man tested is not the biological father of the child. It's important to clarify that this statistic applies to men who already had doubts and therefore requested the test. Now, imagine how that percentage would increase if DNA testing were mandatory for all cases. If 28% of men who already doubted discover they are not the biological fathers, how can anyone expect trust to be based solely on someone's word? If a woman has nothing to hide, why oppose a paternity test that only seeks to provide certainty and peace of mind for both? Trust in a relationship is not built on assumptions or denying biological reality, but on total transparency. If the first reaction to a test request is to feel offended, that's even more reason to ask for it.
Just so you guys know, paternity tests, you can't trust these whatever. You are gonna need her consent because you need a DNA sample from her too. The way it works is they do the analysis and it'll show what markers the baby has, see which ones they got from you and which ones they got from the mother. So you're gonna need her consent. It's hard to argue not doing it because we live in a time where we have the technology to be sure that your kid's your kid. Why wouldn't you do that? I've decided that I have to. I like knowing that my kid's my kid and being certain and then following science to know that for sure. If this is something you want to do, make the decision that you're gonna do it before you meet her, before you have the kid. Of course, she's gonna try to guilt trip you. You don't really love me. You don't trust me. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, no. It has nothing to do with you, lady. I was always gonna do this. I expect it to be a tough conversation, but you make a decision, you stick with it. And that's where I'm at. Don't get me started on the whole marriage thing either. The license part, you can get rid of that. You can get the ring, and maybe not the paper. You can get the rock, but you're not gonna get the paper. Oh, that's a fucking dope line. Shit.
Absolutely. As I've said in previous videos, a man must learn to have difficult conversations. It's crucial to establish clear and non-negotiable boundaries. For me, a DNA test is one of those non-negotiables. I present it in 2 ways. I tell you that I'll do it with your approval, or I'll do it without it, but the DNA test will happen. It might not be the first thing we talk about, and you might not know about it right away, but within the first year of the child's life, that test will be done. This is what I call setting a precedent. She will know from the start that if anything happens and she gets pregnant, she won't be able to make me pay for a child that isn't mine. The most important thing in a man's life is his children, his DNA, and his lineage. This defines the success of a family. There are studies that have traced the family trees of 2 men, one a doctor and the other a criminal. From the doctor's lineage, all were upstanding individuals, and one even became a U.S. senator. From the criminal's lineage, all followed similar paths, committing even worse crimes than the father. DNA matters. It's no coincidence that the children of doctors often pursue careers in medicine, or the children of athletes become athletes themselves. It's in their DNA, in their lineage, in the inheritance of their ancestors. So, brothers, learn to set a clear precedent in your relationships.
I think it's funny how a lot of women will say that men lie and men are pieces of shit, but why is it that 26.9% of all women have lied about paternity? Meaning they've actually pinned a child on a father that isn't theirs. And most of them have admitted doing this because they pick the more suitable father out of the men that they've been cheating with. Additionally, another study was done in the UK that 1 in 10 women don't know who the biological father is and they just take a guess. These men actually grow bonds with their children and raise them and fall in love with them, and then they ultimately find out that the child is not theirs. How sick do you have to be to do that to a man, but also to do that to your own child? It's absolutely diabolical. And the worst part about it is there's little to no consequences to the women that do this. In fact, they might get a slap on the wrist or have to pay a fine, and that's only if the father wants to sue, and most of the men don't go after her or don't do anything because they don't have the financial means to fight it in court. I mean, do what you will with this information. Okay, bye.
28% in the United States, and that's only from the men who requested the test. Brothers, that's a significant number. And we're talking only about those who already had doubts. A man must make decisions based on logic and facts, not emotions. Many times, women will try to make the man with the best position and values the father of their child because it benefits them financially. This percentage shows that more than 1 in 4 women has deceived a man about something as fundamental as the identity of his own child. And this is, without a doubt, one of the greatest betrayals. For the man, it's not only an emotionally devastating blow, but also a financial one, as in many cases, he's forced to support a child that isn't his. The emotional pain and sense of betrayal this creates is immense, and the most troubling part is that, in many cases, there are no consequences for the woman. The system is clearly not designed to protect the man in these situations. That's why paternity tests should be mandatory from birth. This would not only eliminate any possibility of deception, but also protect both the man and the child from being caught in a lie that could impact their lives. We've reached the end of the video, but before we go, here are some questions for you. What do you think about making DNA tests mandatory? Do you know anyone who has been a victim of paternity fraud? If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. Your support means everything to us and motivates us to keep creating more content. Stay tuned for the next exciting video from The Wall.